What's up, chat? Sorry, the Mossad agent got me again. No, like, we have to change our, internet provider, I think. It's very annoying. I don't know what's triggering it. Maybe I should, like, fiddle with the router or something. The moment he got political, LMAO, hashtag connect the dots. As someone who has always been like, all the anti-Jewish conspiracy theorists are fucking retards who just want somebody to blame all their own problems in their life on somebody else. It's been a rough like 2 or 3 years because yeah. I was thinking about this the other day. Anti-Semitism, conspiracy scale. So, if we're gonna have the most extreme people over here, I think we can say, Holocaust denial is probably max, right? Because you're just like, guys, there's no way that, an event in which millions and millions of people were witnessing actually happened. It's all made up. This is probably the maximum over here. And, in between we have, Kanye's opinions. He's probably more like here. Let's put him like right in the middle of anti-Semitism conspiracy scale. Let me have my Tengu are actually Jews conspiracy theory fantasies. But the nose is so straight though. We can have like Alex Jones here. Is Alex Jones more wacko than Kanye or less wacko than Kanye? And Alex Jones is a government plant. Needs a special exemption for leftist anti-Semites like Strasserists. So, over here we have nothing to see. Noticing that U.S. military policy seems to be oddly pro-Israel? Are we noticing something, guys? And then over here it's like there are many Jewish owners of media companies and banks. And in the past, it was like the people who were doing the noticing on these ones were also like in this group as well. But post the Hamas attack in which Israel went to war, like even someone who would be like comfortably over here like myself is kind of being forced to, you know, be like, I don't know, guys. Are we sure that the anti-Semitists are 100% wrong? I mean, the whole Kanye thing is especially funny because his whole argument, Kanye's entire argument was that, like, black people aren't allowed to say anything. And then immediately he, like, got extremely blown up. Like, wasn't Kanye saying that all of media was controlled by the Jews, and if you said anything anti-Jewish, you would immediately get in trouble? And then he immediately proved that point by immediately getting in trouble. Where does the Holocaust happen, but they're milking it hard lie on the scale? Yeah, that is a good question. Kanye said slavery was a choice. Look, the whole Kanye's, like, black people takes are a whole nother category. Kanye being crazy in general, is why you don't want to be in the anti-Jewish conspiracy camp in the first place, because you don't really want to end up being bedfellows with Kanye West and Alex Jones. Them being as crazy as they are really gives, like, the people who don't want to notice stuff a lot of cushion for being like, no guys, nothing to see here. Look at the people spouting this nonsense. Look how crazy they are. And you're like, yeah, you're right. Kanye is being just wacko. Likely also has brain damage from his big accident. Bro, he was perfectly fine for like 5 years or 10 years before he started going down wacko mode. How about like all the drugs he's probably on? That seems more likely if you ask me. Also, at regular intervals, there's always like one guy in the black community who either will try and get ahead by attaching themselves to the Republican establishment or claiming that black people, the reason why their economic situation is bad is because they're lazy and they're, they're doing it to themselves, or that slavery was a choice or whatever. Because it's like, by being a contrarian to like a lot of obvious shit, you can differentiate yourself from the rest of your group and receive money. Like, being a Fox News commentator to justify Republican racism is basically a full-time job that you can make a living off of. I guess the correct term would be an Uncle Tom. There are all these professional Uncle Toms on American TV that I don't guess the Europeans don't get to see this shit. But like Fox News will just like have these guys that are like their entire job is to be like, no, no, black people need to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. Who's watching Fox News anymore? Unfortunately, a lot of people are. That's part of the reason why Trump gets elected, because the boomers, all they do is watch Fox News. It is the most stable TV watching demographic market on the planet. They're single-handedly keeping the cable business model alive just by having Fox News on 24/7. It's pretty funny. Boomers who want to watch fantasy but Game of Thrones is too gay. Some people just enjoy having their convictions reaffirmed 24/7. It makes them feel very good. They'd rather have an information source that is constantly telling them that they're right instead of receiving new information so that they can change their ideas of the world. Does your mom watch Fox News? No, my mother is in the opposite cohort, which is the boomers who are leftist and thus watch MSNBC. My mother doesn't watch Rachel Maddow. She more consumes stuff through like the Colbert Report and shit, but it's basically the same difference. She's definitely in the whole like, I like having my political opinions reaffirmed. She's also a 70s feminist, so she has to live in constant denial that feminism was a success and hasn't been an absolute massive failure ever since women got the vote. She's not truly blind. Apparently she actually went to China in the 70s to discover female liberation, and at least she admits that when she got to China in the 70s, there was no female liberation at all, so she's not fully head in the sand, but she will stay to her own media ecosystem. Lots of NBC and Colbert, yeah. Some people just see... I think these are the people that either are sports fans or they would be sports fans if they actually liked watching guys throw a ball around, in which all they're doing is just rooting for their team. Like, she does the sports fan thing in which literally anything will happen, and then she'll be like, instead of being like, how does this affect Jason Tatum's timeline, she'll be like, oh, this means that Trump is losing. It's like, no. And not everything means your sports ball team is winning, Mom. Like, the perfect example of this was, remember when Disney was beefing with the Trump administration, and Trump administration was taking away some of their like local regency rights they have in their Florida compound, in which they don't have to pay any taxes on the Magic Kingdom and shit. My mother was like, yeah, go Disney, fight the Trump administration. And I'm like, Mom, sometimes both players in a conflict are bad people. You should not be rooting for the multi-billion-dollar corporation to not have to pay local taxes just because they're in like a culture war with the Trump administration. But she wouldn't listen to me. My dad is a sports fan, so it checks out. Some people just really like tribalism. It makes them feel good. Even like being frustrated and stressed out also feels good. I don't know about your dad, but my mother is definitely one of those people who will like work herself into a frenzy when she wants to be like productive and stuff. She'll like purposefully get herself super stressed out about shit she doesn't have to be worrying about. And then she'll like use that energy to work for like 12 hours a day and stuff like that. Like she she has like blood pressure issues, but like she enjoys spiking her blood pressure, it feels. Like, these people get fueled by their anxiousness and stuff. They'll just be, like, upset about shit that is completely unrelated to their daily life. Or their sports team, or their political team winning or losing. And then they'll be like, ah! And then they can also use that. Like, they don't become, like, a nervous wreck in which they can't do anything. It in fact, fuels them to not sleep and, like, do whatever thing they're doing. Just being, like, angry and anxious. They like that state. I enjoy being tribal for my loser-ass teams. Let me have something. That's a little different from the people who are, like, constantly checking to see if their team is winning. Because if you're a fan of the Jets, LMAO... Imagine being a Jets fan. Those are people that are addicted to not being, like, anxious. Those are people who are addicted to being depressed. Anybody who's like, I have attached my identity to rooting for the second team in the New York market. Surely this will be the year in which the Mets win the World Series. I can't imagine a more horrible form of child abuse than being a parent and being like, son, this is a Jets, Mets, Nets household. You are living in the New York market, but those are the teams that you must root for. Don't worry, there will be team success any day now. It's even worse than if you were living in LA and being like, son, you're a Clippers fan now. Don't get the Mets involved, LMAO. She thinks that the Mets are in a different category as the Jets. They are definitely in the same category. Only you think that they're different. People from where you live didn't even do shit since teams are composed out of people from all over the world. Not only are they composed of people from all over the world, those people are getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to play their sports ball, and also they're constantly being traded and sent to other teams without their own volition. They're not even choosing to be here. They're going to be on your team for a year and then get shipped off for another team so you can get a few draft picks. It's pretty rare in which you're like, this is our guy, he's going to be with us forever. Very difficult for that actually to happen. Has any Japanese been in the NBA? There's been a few. There's only been one that has had, like, consistent starter level success, and he's a giant, like, 6'8" black guy. So, once again, being short, not good to be successful in the NBA. There's one really short guy right now, and he's basically, like, right in between the minor league and major league level. So he's just too short to actually do, like, real stuff consistently, but he's good at everything else. So, what was his name? Was it Kawamura? Yeah, Kawamura Yuki. He actually, very popular among the NBA heads because he's, short as fuck. Everybody wants to root for the short person. See, look. There's one person who's slightly smaller than everybody else. But as you can see, he's very fast, and he has good positional awareness, and he can distribute the ball. But instead of, like, you know, dunking it or laying it up himself, he has to constantly pass. Just because, he can't. Like, he just can't finish around the rim, and he can shoot a bit. You have to be like a Steph Curry level shooter. if you want to be playing at that size. He wins the tip. Pretty funny. He won the tip! But the only actual Japanese NBA player that is being successful in the NBA is he's just a massive black guy like everybody else in the NBA. Better to be short than Draymond Green. I mean, the truth is that there's just no way to actually really be successful being under 6 feet tall or even 6 feet tall in the NBA. You know who the best player in the NBA or one of the best players in the NBA is? This guy. Is there something you notice about this man? It's almost as if he's slightly taller than everybody else. Whoop. He's like a solid foot taller than like an average NBA player. Absolute freak body. The 7'4" guy, he's probably more like 7'5", honestly. He's the only player in which, when they lie about his height, they say he's shorter than he actually is. Because if he's too tall, everyone's just gonna worry that your knees are gonna snap. So. See that? You want to put the ball up on the board. He basically doesn't jump. He just like boop, he just pops it. He is also more prone to joint issues. He had blood clots last year as well. Powerful until he gets deep vein thrombosis. That really is what it comes down to. Is that you're good until you're not good, or you're good until you're out from injury. A lot of Japanese people, when they complain about how basketball isn't a real sport, are like, all you have to do is just be tall. And I'm like, can't deny that. But there have been a lot of tall players who thought they could make it by being tall, and they generally don't work. You have to be tall, athletic, and have to be extremely skilled and stuff, but it's more of like a cutoff point in terms of like, you're just automatically good. It's just one of the many things required to be good at the sport, but if people are going to complain that you can't do that sport if you're too short, then 100% that's true. You have to be between the height range of like 6'3" and like 6'11" to be an effective NBA player. Once you get above 6'11", only like very specific players can stay healthy long term. If you have any kind of weight and you're above 7 feet tall, all of your joints get fucked up. But if you're not at least like 6'3", then you're undersized most of the time. Wemby at the Shaolin Temple is also a seminal moment. Bro is just trying to, promote his Nike brand or whatever. Shaq made 2 Shaq Foos. Shaq is the most obvious example of you don't have to actually be good at anything. As long as you have like a huge body, you can be good in basketball. Motherfucker couldn't learn how to shoot free throws, despite there was like an entire strategy around fouling him because he would miss free throws, and he still never learned how to shoot free throws. He basically was just cruising on his natural gifts his entire career, and that was still enough for him to win multiple championships, so Shaq is like Exhibit A in terms of like you don't actually need skill if you're big enough. If you want to play basketball. Shaq had a bunch of skills like catching the ball and dunking it and stuff. But he wasn't even that good at defense. I feel like Shaq is one of the more overrated players. Shaq and Kobe at the time were both like insanely overrated because every player on the Lakers gets like way more casual attention than they should. So if you have like a Laker championship team, your presence in general media will just be like so much higher than any other team. What is the opposite of a free throw merchant? Free throw avoider. Wilt Chamberlain, arguably one of the best NBA players of all time, would actively like avoid going to the basket because he wouldn't want to get fouled, and he was embarrassed that he couldn't shoot his free throws. So he would try very hard not to get fouled, and it would fuck with his play. Shaq wasn't overrated, but you're right about his lack of skills. Shaq wasn't overrated in his first, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years of his career, but the championship he won with Dwayne Wade was 100% Dwayne Wade just carrying the fuck out of that team. Shaq was not doing much in his post-Heat career. He basically used everything during his Lakers. I was watching the 2006 Heat championship, and Dwayne Wade was on such a fucking heater. Like, that was the first time in an NBA game when I was feeling like, oh man, Dallas has got to score on the way back because I have 100% confidence that Dwayne Wade is going to score on this side of the floor, and it's going to be a scoring match. They can't stop him. Kobe was the most overrated of that time, even more than Shaq. And that isn't really a like Kobe wasn't good thing, but more of like the Kobe stans think he's like a literal god, so they would ignore any kind of inefficiency numbers. Are you permanently on your own now? What do you mean on my own? You mean I'm divorced? Because yes, if that's what you mean, I am divorced in terms of like never having married. Shaq also benefited from being the last super heavyweight center. Like, if Shaq tried to play today, I don't think he would be able to play in the current modern NBA environment where they can just drag you out to the three-point line. He benefited in a very specific time in which the NBA hadn't really discovered how powerful the three-point shot was. So he wouldn't be expected to run from baseline to the three-point line 1,000 times a game. If he was playing in the modern NBA, I think there would be some matchups in which he would basically be unplayable because he would be too much of a liability on defense. There's too many 5-out offenses right now. I mean, living alone in Japan and never going back to America, I'll have to go back to America at some point. Because my mother's still in America and she's going to die. So then I'm going to have to go and, like, organize shit in America. They mean, are you no longer living in your aunt's house? I am living in my aunt's house. I am out of my mother's apartment, and now I'm, or not apartment, my mother's house. I used to be in my mother's house, and now I'm in my late aunt's apartment. Never coming back to America after that? I don't know. I have dual citizenship. Here's the thing. If I become a super successful manga creator, I'm going to have to get rid of my dual citizenship because you get taxed. If you're making more than, like, I think it was like $140,000 a year, you have to pay tax on the American side as well. American citizens have to pay taxes no matter where they are on the planet. It's not a location-based thing, but you can file for tax exemptions if you're abroad. But you don't get those tax exemptions if once you get above a certain income level. This is to avoid American billionaires from, like, you know, being like, oh, I live in the Virgin Islands, blah, blah, blah. So if I become successful, I have to get rid of my American tax, my American citizenship. I'm not supposed to have dual citizenship in the first place because Japanese dual citizenship, you're supposed to give it up after you hit 20. But giving up your American citizenship is a lot of work, so they don't get on your ass for still having it. There isn't any real coordination between the Japanese Citizenship Bureau or whatever, and the American Citizenship Bureau. So they're not going to take away your citizenship in Japan. They're just like, you should do something to not have dual citizenship, and you're just like, yeah, I'll do something, and then you don't do anything. Unless Mama Ball goes back to her homeland, he'll have to go back for both parents, yeah. I don't think I'll be able to do whatever, like, inheritance stuff and, like, sell the house and shit from Japan, so but I'm not interested in living in any of the locations that my parents are currently have real estate long term, so I mean, who knows what kind of a state America will be in the future. Like, I definitely don't want to live in, you know, Trumpistan America. Trump is too old to be, like, president for life, but he's certainly trying. How is jogging in Japan? Jogging in Japan is very comfortable right now, but that's because it's March. We'll see how I feel about that shit when it's like August and it's literally like 60 degrees Celsius or some shit. It won't be 60 degrees Celsius, but it will be like 40 degrees Celsius. So I definitely won't be able to jog during the day. I'll definitely have to have some kind of sports membership, sports gym membership. But there isn't a good gym around this, near the apartment. I have to get on like a bike or something and go to the trade station. I want to have a house for myself, Sag. I don't need that much space. Even having multiple rooms in this apartment is too much space for me. I'd rather pay very cheap rent than have a mortgage. People be like, owning a house is way better, but that's only if you actually need a house. If you only need a few rooms, it's cheaper to just rent, which is me. It was 85 here last weekend and it's fucking March. Yeah, well, all I can say is you deserve what you get for living in California. Enjoy the hellish fires as your entire sky becomes bright red and it looks like you're living in the lowest levels of Inferno. Global warming is fake. Global warming deniers have to be like the most head in the sand people on the planet. We started this stream with me talking about people who have their head in the sand, but You have to be like a special flavor of stupid to be like, guys, global warming, that's just a liberal conspiracy, when it's just like straight up 100 degrees outside. They're like, nope, nope, actually the planet's cooling, guys, Trump said so. Like, how much denial do you have to be in to ignore the part where it's insanely fucking hot outside? My dad really should be a renter, to be honest. I didn't choose to be born here, man. Rent, especially in Japan, is incredibly cheap because they don't have the gigantic holding companies that have bought up all the houses and stuff. Like, I have this, the rental site bookmarked to look for properties. But let's say I want to live in Hokkaido. Let's see, let's say we want to live in, I don't know, lots of Sapporo. Central Sapporo, that seems to be a pretty desirable urban area. So let's go in the cheapest. Or maybe let's just do the most recent. So if you just check out most recent, look at these fucking prices. 2.3, 20,000 yen. That's the equivalent of like $150 a month. And you get basically literally just one room. Enjoy your fucking one-room apartment with a closet and a toilet and a bath. But you know, if you're living alone, if you're just like a fucking incel sitting in front of your computer all day, you basically only need one room, right? All of these are like 25,000 yen. This is a 6th floor location. And yeah, you get 7 tatamis with a kitchen. I don't want a bath, I want a shower. The shower's attached to the bath. It's called a unit bath. You stand in the bathtub with the shower. So if you want a few more rooms, like this is Sapporo, this gives you 2 rooms and a balcony. And like a 3rd room. I don't know what this room is. Yeah, this is pretty solid size. And that's going to cost you about, that's 30,000 yen. So that's like 200 bucks a month. And it's not just like Sapporo. Most of Japan has these kinds of prices. And these are relatively close to the train station. It's all location, right? The train station location is incredibly important. Are these modernized apartments or old kind? These are, that was like the newest apartments being listed, so they're all modern. I will fill that room with so many vinyl Godzilla cats and nothing else. When they discover your decomposing body, they'll be like, it was an otaku. The creature that was living here before they died from eating too much pizza was an otaku. Do I get the warm Hawaiian breeze with the Japanese toilet? At this point, Japanese toilets with like the heating and the washing, the bidet stuff is almost mandatory. It's actually kind of hard to find Japanese toilets that don't have like all the electronic ass washing features. As someone who isn't a big fan of heated toilets, like you can turn it off, but I have it set to its lowest setting, minimum setting. So it's not lukewarm. It's just kind of like, it's not like freezing cold, but it's not warm at all. I don't like the feeling of warm toilet seats because it reminds me of when you would like use a public toilet and like the fat bastard had already been shitting on the toilet and you're feeling his ass warmth. I don't enjoy that. Don't they call that lonely death in Japanese? Yes. It's awesome. Personally, I don't want to have some annoying motherfucker getting in my way of me enjoying my death alone. I nearly flooded the downstairs apartment installing a bidet. All of this is to say bidet should be mandatory. Bidets are extremely helpful when you have hemorrhoids like me, and wiping can become an issue. You don't want to damage your hemorrhoid tissue and bleed all over the place, so having a soft stream to wipe, to, you know, clean your hemorrhoids without touching them with paper is good. That sounds like goofy ghost story. Ball waking up for late night shit only to realize his toilet is too warm when it's set to low. No, not the warm toilet seat. No. Bidet are great for vagina wielders too. Yuck. Imagine having a vagina. Imagine having like a hard to clean hole in your body. No wonder God is punishing you for listening to the temptation of the great serpent in the Garden of Eden. Since you live in Japan, now your Patreon money that's been in US dollars, how nice is it to afford stuff in Japan? I mean, I was able to afford stuff in America as well because I wasn't paying rent and my mother was paying for probably like half of my eating costs. I've personally promised myself not to buy anything physical, especially. I can still buy some digital goods, but I'm planning to move, so I don't want anything. I don't want to buy anything physical that will clutter up my apartment. Having to dispose a lot of my shit in my mother's house really awakened me to the fact that I don't want to have any objects. So I'm going to try very, very hard not to buy anything that isn't like a perishable item. Didn't the Japanese market drop by 7% or something? You mean the stock market? I mean, that's just the oil, right? We don't know what's going to be happening with the Iranian situation, and Japan gets tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, so... What did you dispose of? Not the PS4? Everything's in, like, a storage facility right now. By the way, the construction that kicked me out of my mother's house still hasn't started yet. If you want any updates on whether I can move back to America anytime soon, the answer is no. I will not be moving back anytime soon, thank you very much. What is your mom even doing? Like, everything? No, the contractor is doing everything. And the contractor has not responded to her in like 3 years, even though she's already given them a down payment. Welcome to trying to hire blue-collar workers in America. What is it with immigrant moms and renovations? I mean, she is right that the second floor needs renovations. Especially the room that I was living in literally has no insulation. So it's both the hottest room and the coldest room in the house. So objectively speaking, that it probably should get renovated, but I wouldn't do it. When I learned that renovating a house doesn't actually improve its sales price by much, I basically became anti-renovation. But once my mother decides she wants to do something, then she's going to do it no matter what I say, so it's kind of meaningless. I can't be like, Mother, I have an opinion. I think that you should listen to my opinion. It's very well thought out. Throughout my life, my mother has never listened to my opinion under any circumstance, so it's especially annoying because she'll often ask my opinion and then like do whatever the fuck she wants every single time. So I've really gotten sick of her when she asks me like, what do you think I should do? It's just like, bitch, you just want to listen to the sound of your own voice. You don't actually care what my opinion is. Even when it finishes, what are the chances you get comfortable in Japan and don't move back anyway? Very high. That was always the plan. I always was like, I want to be in Japan. You're not supposed to be living in your parents' house when you're older than 40 years old in American society. And with the exchange rate, dollar to yen exchange rate in its current state, I should 100% be living in Japan. Also, there's no healthcare in America, remember? You're paying like $300 a month in healthcare premiums for health insurance. And when I wanted to see a hemorrhoid doctor for a routine treatment, it ended up taking me like more than 8 months to get an appointment set up. So I ended up going to Japan before I could even see a fucking doctor. Healthcare is like basically non-existent in America, guys. It's a fucking joke. Meanwhile, when I was in Japan and I called up like the local hemorrhoid doctor, they were like, okay, why don't you come in? And I'm like, wait, what about my appointment? How long do I have to wait? They're like, huh? Like they didn't understand the concept of like, you'd have to wait to see the doctor. They're just like, no, don't, just walk in. I was like, what the fuck are you people talking about? Are you fucking psycho? You don't just get to walk into a doctor's office. But no, that's not how Japan works. They're just like, yeah, we'll be open on this day. Why don't you come to the doctor? I did have to wait a little bit to see like the main doctor who actually runs the clinic. But if it was just seeing like any doctor, they were just like, nah, just walk in. I'm like, what the fuck? Japanese healthcare isn't free. You have to pay for the national socialized system. And the higher your income is, the more you have to pay. They actually have like a progressive tax system. This will be like a very foreign concept for America, but rich people actually have to pay to support the rest of the country. But because I'm poor right now, it's beneficial for me to be in Japan. If I was a multi-billion-dollar best-selling mangaka, then I'd be paying a lot for my healthcare, but I'm not, so. What's your opinion on Trump's Iran war? So I was thinking about this quite a bit yesterday because my mother has a New York Times subscription, so I still primarily use the New York Times for my news source. But I was really feeling that the current coverage of the New York Times was becoming too much of like a liberal bias, and I think it was affecting the like the actual state of shit. So like all the news headlines on New York Times are Iranian military shows it knows how to adapt, US officials say. When will the war end? Day of muddled messages on Iran wars, timelines. How one American got out of Qatar. Nearly 700,000 displaced by war in Lebanon. Iran war is disrupting many essential goods, so on and so on and so on. It's like all super negative coverage. And I mean, I guess you shouldn't be like being like, yeah, let's fucking go. But on the other hand, like, think about like what we're expecting out of this war, like what our baseline is for like what is success and what is failure. You're having like a massive war in like a hugely crowded area in a region, and we've basically only reached like I don't know, 30 or 40 deaths if we're talking about non-Iranians. Like, I think the New York Times is really clouding, their view is clouding what an insane level of like ass fucking is going on by the US military at this point. Like, it's a quote unquote war in which all the major leaders of like the branches of the opponent's government got assassinated before it even began. Like, I don't think people are probably recognizing how insanely one-sided this shit is. It's so one-sided to the point where people in the region and like global participants can be worried about being like, oh no, the price of oil has gone up by 15%. It's like, 15% isn't that much considering how much oil comes out of the Middle East, right? Like, I don't know, man. I think people haven't really adopted to... See, this is my analysis. I don't think analysis has considered what kind of a war this is. And that is, it's an assassination campaign fueled by primarily Israeli intelligence, right? Like, the reason why Ayatollah Khomeini and all the higher-ups of the Iranian military brass got killed immediately was because Israeli intelligence clearly has a shit ton of local assets in Iran who are giving away the information of leaders at basically every single point. Notice how Iran has named their next supreme leader, and New York Times will report like, oh, this shows that they're being defiant and stuff like that. It's like, okay, they're being defiant, but you know what's not happening? The guy isn't appearing in like public, right? Because the moment he appears in public, there's a super high chance he just straight up immediately gets assassinated. Oh, fucking Christ. My entire internet just went out. You're back? Jesus Christ. I really need to get a new internet provider. Like, it'll just have, like, sporadic moments in which... That's really interesting. The internet on my side went out, like, the YouTube stream stopped. I'm shocked that it didn't cut out on your guys' side. Weird. Anyways... Maybe you should stop talking about politics? No, it's just my internet. So basically the point I wanted to make was, what are we going to do if we're in a situation in which Iran is kind of stuck, in which they can never have like a forward-facing political leader out in the open, because the moment they do that, they'll immediately get killed by like Israeli intelligence and US air campaigns. Japanese language question. What's the difference between saying chinchin and chimpo? This sounds like a question that an ugly bastard would be teaching to local blonde exchange student Joshi Kosei. They can't. They do the same thing they did with their nuclear program and their missile program. They move it all underground. Yeah, but you can't rule a country when you're perpetually underground. Also, we don't actually know what's happening with the nuclear program as well. All I'm saying is that I'm kind of done underestimating how much more powerful US military is than all these other countries at this point. I think America doing a really shitty job of nation building in Iraq for like 10 years, and Afghanistan as actually, it's like the overrated, underrated shit. Like the war in Iraq and Afghanistan exposed the limitations of American military power to the point that now it feels like it's underrated. The mole people. People need to stop accusing the lizard people of all these bad stuff. The lizard people have done nothing wrong. We just want to sun ourselves on warm rocks and get a little treat every now and then. I'd be much more willing to touch females if they were all cold-blooded scalies. One of my big problems with human contact is that my body temperature is super high, so it's uncomfortable touching other hot-blooded human beings. It's like, especially, there's like 6 months of the year where it's like, oh god, human contact. It's hot and uncomfortable. So if I could just find a proper snake female. Like, calling the lizard people, calling Mark Zuckerberg a lizard person is really unfair to lizards, I think. Lizards are way more expressive and happy creatures than Mark Zuckerberg could ever dream of being, so I won't allow for such slander. Mark is a skinwalker. I think we all agree that he's a skinwalker. The question is, what's underneath his skin? What's his true form? Are you a lizard person? No, in fact, I produce way too much body heat, so I'm uncomfortable all the time by my own hot-bloodedness. It would be actually be pretty comfortable to be living in Japan with its hot, humid climate and extremely hot summers if I was a lizard person, but I'm the opposite. Is he 3 raccoons? Is an eldritch abomination? Who knows? I think if he was 3 raccoons, he would have a more well thought out opinion on the economic viability of the metaverse. Raccoons know trash when they see it. They know what's edible and what isn't. And nothing's edible in the metaverse. It's just endless digital bullshit that nobody wants to engage with. Let's see. Current Bitcoin price is oh no, that's Japanese yen. Current Bitcoin price is down to 69,000. It cratered all the way down to 65,000, so it's up, back up a little bit. Remember when people tried to convince us that having fake money that you could use to buy drugs with was the future of technology and capitalism? It won't ever lose all of its value like some of the doomers are saying, because you will always be able to use it to buy drugs and stuff, probably. It'll come back eventually. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I ain't dealing in that stuff. Silk Road guy has been pardoned. It's only a matter of time till I can produce LSD in a trailer. I think we have all these movements where people are like, no, LSD is good for you. It allows you to overcome your PTSD or something, so there's a much higher chance of you being able to produce your LSD in a trailer than like them legalizing meth or something, I'd say, so we all just need to get rich, let the money change us, switch up on the gang, and forget who brought us up. The Zoomer mindset. I am 22 next month. Remember that before the Zoomers had that mindset, that was basically the only thing that rappers were talking about in the 90s. Pretty much every rapper was like, yo, homie, you left the hood, it changed you, bro. Or their song was the opposite. They were like, I will never forget where I came from, even though I drive Bentleys, and so on. It's a tale as old as time. Started from the bottom, now we here, as my man Drake would say. Was that Drake? I don't remember. I can't figure out how the hair works. It keeps on looking incorrect. I think this might be too long at the center. The Jewish Canadian child actor Drake. You know that meme in which, like, Drake is sitting with a bunch of people and they're like, yo, he thinks he's part of the team. Is that like the Canadian basketball team or something? Is that Drake? I never really looked into that photo. He thinks he's part of the team meme. Blood thinks he's on the team. Who invited him, Blood? Oh, it's not Drake. For some reason I thought that was like Drake attaching himself. Oh yeah, it is Drake. I can't recognize Drake just by looking at him. Drake in the Kentucky NCAA basketball locker room with the text reading, "Who invited my man Blood? Bro thinks he's on the team." Crying emoji. In fact, I don't follow Drake. The most recent information I know about Drake was that everybody was like, yo, because Kendrick was calling him someone who fucks minors at the Super Bowl. That's all I know of recent Drake activity, is him very publicly losing his beef with Kendrick in the most public, high-profile way possible. You need to join the $4 tier on his Patreon to get access to the Discord where he holds the commission auctions. Yes. I do commissions, and I do them for very rich people who have way too much disposable income, and the Discord is used to filter out all the people who don't have as much money, because I wouldn't do commissions if I wasn't getting paid, is what it comes down to it. Kendrick roasted him to a crisp. Yes. I think if people are willing to roast you during their Super Bowl performance, you ain't recovering from that. It's over, bro. This might be too much Fang. I'm going to reduce the Fang size by 10%. Not only did he lose the beef, he lost the lawsuit against him as well. What was the lawsuit about? No, the Fang, no. There's too much Fang. The Fang must be subtle. It can't be overbearing. Just a little bit of Fang. I feel bad for Drake, but he really did groom a 16-year-old. You know who the greatest groomer of all time was? Let's actually ask Grok. This is the best use of wasting water and electricity. Asking our AI. Was Hikaru Genji from The Tale of Genji a groomer? No, Hikaru Genji would not accurately be described as a groomer in the modern clinical or criminal sense of the term, but several aspects of his behavior, especially toward the character Murasaki, raise serious red flags when viewed through a contemporary ethical lens. Genji first encounters Murasaki, also called Violet Murasaki no Ue, when she is 10 years old. He is in his early to mid-20s at this point. The text places him around his early adulthood during this chapter. He becomes instantly infatuated because she resembles his forbidden love Fujitsubo, his stepmother aunt figure. Genji then essentially adopts her, takes her into his household, raises her, educates her, and shapes her into his ideal romantic partner. This is grooming in the ultimate form, guys. They consummate the relationship years later when she is older. The text implies after puberty and when she has matured further, though exact ages for consummation vary slightly by translation, but are generally understood to be in early to mid-teens. She's like 14, bro. The pattern is explicitly called Hikaru Genji Plan, or Genji Ryu in some modern Japanese pop culture discussions especially in anime manga communities, where an older male character, not necessarily older male character, I've seen the female versions, deliberately raises a much younger girl to become his future lover wife. It's not grooming, but actually that's grooming, LMAO? Yes. The decision to remove her from her guardians and raise her himself with a long-term intent of romance, sex, marriage aligns closely with what people today call grooming. Building trust and emotional dependency over years with a future sexual romantic goal in mind. Genji plan, what did Ando mean by this? Guys, it's different because it's historic. As usual, the author is female. Women can't help themselves, even in the 11th century Heian aristocratic standards. It was unusual and somewhat ethnically questionable even then. The text registers discomfort, but not outside the realm of an elite male. Even at the time, female gooners being like, but what if the ultimate hot playboy was raising the lowly? Question, question, question. God forbid a male pre-order something, geez. Unlike the digital video games you pre-order on the PlayStation Store, you can't get rid of your lowly that you're preparing to be your wife, unfortunately. If you want an example of Japanese anime media where they have Hikaru Genji plan, the Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei author Kumeta Koji, Sodatte Darling manga. I have some information for you. As the title Grow Up My Darling might suggest, the male character in this image is not just short. This is old Kumesta style, by the way. So he has completely different drawing style than the Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei style, in which like everything has been completely cut down to like the absolute basic eyeballs and stuff like that. It's also early shonen area, shonen themed stuff in the 90s, so there's a lot of sexy shots. They're fucking selling it for $30 US. That's so fucking stupid, Jesus Christ. I'm sure you can buy it for like 500 yen on the Japanese internet. Here we have an image of the female learning to cook by dumping the entire container of pepper on her fried eggs. In a bride story, the older woman marries a 12-year-old boy and shares a bed with him naked. That is not even Shota, but still kind of holy shit how casual the author is. Female authors don't have Oneshota relationships. Challenge. Difficulty impossible. As usual. Female degeneracy cannot be stopped. Female degeneracy toward, like, grooming relationships in media is very similar to foot fetishes degeneracy, to being like, feet, because they think that people aren't gonna notice how fucking degenerate they are. Don't even get me started about Kodomo no Jikan. Translation, literal translation, children time. Time for the children, boys. Kodomo no Jikan is actually a wordplay because there's a phrase, Otono no Jikan, time for adults, in which you would ask like your kid to go to bed because it's already 9 p.m. and stuff, and you tell them it's time for adults to do adult things, and the inference here is the kids are being asked to go to bed because mommy and daddy are going to have sex now, and the author is just straight up being like, yes, it's like that, except it's opposite. It's children time. The theme is already being revealed in the title. Have you seen the 2000s film Secretary that gave James Spader of all people a fangirl club? Women wanting to fuck James Spader disturbs me. I don't even know who James Spader is. James Spader. I assume this was before he went completely bald. He hasn't aged well. He was so mid. Now, most people are mid. He looks like Kirkland Brand, I don't know, Robert Redford or something. He's definitely store brand something. We have James Spader at home. Except the one we have at home is way better. Midi Blood. What's our opinion on Michael Jackson in 2026? I feel like the Michael Jackson fans were like, if he was fucking kids at Neverland Ranch, he wasn't, first off, and if he was, it was based and red-pilled. MJ can do no wrong. People are too strong. That basically any of the sexual allegations have basically been wiped clean at this point. I never stopped liking him. Fuck the haters. I never really care one way or the other because I didn't really like him in the first place that much. I don't really have any strong relationship with any celebrities or musicians, so I basically don't have any like heroes who I'd be like, no, there's no way that person would do that thing. How could I consume whatever they produce? I really think he was just a childish weirdo and that was it. Maybe I'll take the unpopular stance of doing the equivalent of standing for Kanye. Being like, no, you don't understand. Kanye is selling his swastika t-shirts because he's an artist. You have to have a high IQ to understand the performance art that Kanye is doing right now. He's not crashing out. He's this is his greatest masterpiece. The easiest way to piss off a millennial is to mistake an MJ song for the Weeknd song. How is that even possible? How would you do that? Is that a common issue? Is that something that Zoomies will do by mistake? They'll be like, what are these sounds being, high-pitched sounds being made by this singer? Billie Jean, is that the latest Weeknd song? Who is this MJ guy? He was clearly inspired by The Weeknd. We want prenup. Kanye has made it very difficult for me to not say the N-word, thanks to his excellent soundtrack involving the N-word. All I want to do is to talk about a female who isn't fucking with broke people of a certain ethnicity. And yet Kanye makes it so I can't sing his wonderful lyrics. I found out that a lot of Zoomers don't even know what 9 Inch Nails is. Some of the weirdest videos on the internet is being like, we showed this Gen Z kid this song that's super famous and they're listening to it for the first time. And they're like, what? React content is so weird. What is the most perplexing cultural thing that you could show to a Zoomer and you would take the most time for them to understand and explain it to them? I'm thinking maybe like Insane Clown Posse or something. What was something that was all around in the 2000s and people just knew about that if we tried to expose a Zoomer to right now, they wouldn't be able to understand it culturally, what was going on? And be like, no, you don't understand the Juggalo movement. It was very prominent in the 90s. It was a very important part of culture. I like rapist reacts to rants. Linkin Park. Gen Z love clowns. Yeah, I think Gen Z can actually understand Juggalos just fine, considering they're all basically clowns. Blockbuster? Yeah, probably. Zoomers still experience VHS? Are you sure? VHS was basically gone by the year 2000, you know? Maybe not gone. I guess it started to get phased out by like 2004, maybe? I think by 2004 it was all DVDs and shit. "2004 kid and I rented Ben 10 DVDs, bro." There was a very long like DVDs period in which Blockbuster still existed, but they didn't have VHSs as much. Watching DVDs around 2002, 2003? Yeah. I think so too. It was the same time in which everybody owned a PS2. So everybody got a DVD player that cost like $100 with the PS2, so... LAN parties? Maybe. But I want to answer with something that is like, it's a different paradigm. Like, thinking about stuff is different. I don't actually have any Zoomer children around me, so I don't actually have any good reference of this myself. I personally never got to have any LAN parties because I didn't have any friends who played video games, so... There was a place in my hometown that was specifically like an area where you could rent a space to play like Unreal Tournament. It was like a PC gaming rental area, specifically for LAN parties. Ball never had friends. I had friends, but none of them would play video games for some reason. I'm not sure why. Like, all the friends I would ever make, they were never interested in gaming. Pretty sure LAN parties were for people without friends. You need to have friends to have a LAN party, guys. I know fat PC neckbeards all in the same room is not our idea of proper socializing, but that doesn't mean they're not friends, theoretically. What friends did you have past till now? What kind of a question is that? Am I supposed to, like, go through the identities of all the friends I had? One by one? Like, what kind of a dumb question is that? You guys want to know about friend A I had in middle school or whatever? People don't really talk about their friends unless they did something hilarious like shitting themselves at school or something. A life without high-speed internet or YouTube would be wild for a Zoomer. Here's the thing that would break a Zoomer's mind. Explain the concept of boredom. You were like, growing up in the 90s, get this, there were times in which we didn't have any content available. Not that you were like bored with the content, the current content, and it felt like you had already seen it before, but literally you had already seen everything. You had watched everything, you had read everything, you had experienced everything, and they hadn't produced more for you. So you were just like, well, I guess we're out of content to consume for this weekend. We're going to have to find a way to amuse ourselves by running really fast into a tree or something and injuring ourselves on purpose or something. This was how Jackass was born, unironically. Is like there wasn't as much content being produced for consumption at the time, so we had to like amuse ourselves. There were times in the 90s in which you would just sit on the couch because there was literally nothing on and nothing you were interested was being produced. It was a crazy time. You would not go onto TikTok and swipe for like 5 hours and realize that the day is fucking over now because you are wasting your time on the internet. You were actually like, well, there's nothing to do, guys. I think Zoomers cannot actually imagine that. You had so much, there weren't all these things fighting for your attention. You had so much spare time to use with your own attention that you wish there was something you could divert your attention to, but a lot of times there wasn't anything. And you're like, well, let's go and find some interesting looking sticks or something. Joke's on you, I drew or read books. Yeah, but even if you were in the reading, like, category of people, they weren't shitting out a trillion books written by AI aimed at the lonely nerd male demographic at the time either. Unless you were reading Ender's Game for like the 5th time or something. There wasn't just like a massive glut of content like there is right now. Driving to the mall with friends and the mall is full of stores and people, plus everything is way more affordable. That's the other thing. When you didn't have anything to do, you just be like, let's go to the mall. The mall will be full of people. We will meet other people at the mall, and then we will talk about shit at the mall. It was part of both, like, you have to go to the mall to buy stuff, but also, there's nothing to do right now. What happened to the days of conning other kids out of their Pokemon cards and getting stuck in a tree for 8 hours? That's another thing. There weren't as much shit to do, and also parents weren't there to monitor whether you were being safe or not. So there was a lot of tree-related behavior, like running as fast as you can, sprinting toward a tree, and then running into it at full speed and see if you would get injured or something. It turned out, yes, you would get injured, but we had to find out. I wonder if it will hurt if I whack my buddy in the balls with this large stick, and then he would have to go to the emergency room. Kids don't really break their bones anymore. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the Zoomers, but if you're growing up in the 90s, there was always like one kid in the class who had a broken bone at any time. And it wasn't from, like, going on and doing, like, intense skiing and shit. It was just them, like, doing stupid shit. Like, he tried to do, like, a stupid bike move. Like, you would, like, set up your own bike ramp and then, like, make a mistake and then snap your femur or some shit. Kids be like, let's play a game called Die. Yeah. And parents would be like, now you go outside and ride your bike around and get molested by the local creep. And kids would be like, sounds good. The 90s were actually still on the tame side. When you hear stories from, like, the kids that were growing up in, like, the 70s and 80s, like, this is where all, like, the Stephen King stories and stuff come from. But, like, in the 70s and 80s, there would be, like, the kids would know among their own networks that, like, you don't go near that guy's house because he was, like, a child molester rapist, probably. And it was just, like, open knowledge, and nobody would do anything about it. And then, like, if you watch True Crime in 2000, they're like, it turned out that the person that the children of the local neighborhood knew as a child molester rapist was actually a child molester rapist. And they found bodies of several kids in his backyard. And, like, that was just, like, common knowledge. And, like, nobody would do shit about it. And kids would still go outside and ride around their bicycles. It was a fucking wild-ass time. Don't go near Uncle Touchy's yard. It was, like, actually like that. It was, like, on the down low by the 90s. But, like, growing up in the 70s and 80s, it was, like, actually like that, apparently. It's like, little Billy, you go outside and you play with on your bicycle, but don't go near the molester. He's the weird one. A kid had to get his cast replaced because another kid drew a fat, veiny dick on it. If it was just a cock-shaped thing, it would have been fine, but when you start drawing the veins, it becomes hard to pretend it's a rocket ship or something. Those was the schools were also, they spend way too much time caring about whether there was a cock drawn on a person's cast instead of being worried about like the local child molester. Schools were like super worried that you were wearing a black t-shirt. This was like in the 90s. This was still like the era of moral panic thanks to Nancy Reagan. They're like, look, the kid's wearing the wrong t-shirt. He's being led astray by Satan. Because people didn't listen to kids back then. It was like, Uncle Touchy goes to church. We know him. Now stop saying silly things about him being a child molester. He's just a nice old man, LMAO. If you had long hair as a male, was prohibited. Yeah, because that's a fucking hippie fashion. We don't allow that global homo stuff. Zoomers don't have to find the crusty anime store. Oh, I know what it is. The biggest thing that Zoomers will never understand is how hard it was to get access to porn. That's the thing that they'll never be able to understand. You had to fight for your right to masturbate back in the day. If you were like a 13-year-old horny-ass kid, you had to go and find your porn, man. It was a fucking adventure being like, and when you got your hands on some good limited jack-off content, you treasured that shit, man. That's the biggest thing. There wasn't a tidal wave of free porn for every single fetish at all times being pushed in your face. It was analog, man. You had to go and find your uncle's Playboys and shit. That's the thing. It's the porn. That's the biggest difference. You had to go behind like the special curtain of the local VHS store and access the porn somehow. And it wasn't easy to get there. It wasn't easy to find porn. Just have an older brother leave the browser open and pray your PC doesn't get pop-up viruses. Man, you had to go on that PC and you had to delete your history and shit. You didn't have your own like personal computer that had access to Pornhub 24/7. Like, come on, man. It was hard. It was hard living and masturbating in the 90s. And then when the internet suddenly started to make it easier, but I was right at the age in which I didn't have my own computer, so you'd have to wait for your parents to go shopping, and you'd have to be like, okay. It was like fucking Tom Cruise hacking into the secure location in Mission Impossible. You're like, okay, I'm going in. I'm going to access the computer now. We have to make sure that nobody finds the traces of what the searches we were doing in the database. Gotta erase your history. Gotta make sure everything in the office and the desktop is fully restored to original position. I found my dad's stash when I was 7. Obviously, your parents were not doing a good enough job to hide the porn from you. I had to fight for my porn. It was a lot easier when you're in Japan, where there's just like porn sitting around in stores and stuff. You can just buy it. You'd have to find like a local bookshop owned by some old guy who didn't give a fuck. He was like, you're just doing your rite of passage, and then he would sell the porn to you and they wouldn't care. God bless his heart. Money is money. No, they understand that like kids are horny. Japan doesn't have Christianity, so there isn't the concept of like moral defilement in the same way that it exists in America. The old guy is just like, yeah, he's just being a kid. He's just growing up. Not a big deal. Men stick up for men. They know that this 12-year-old needs to jack off looking at titties. I was 14 when I stuck into a sex shop and were terrified of getting caught. They didn't care at all. It's funny because the city I'm living in right now is called Ashia, and it's very like Western oriented. It has like strong like Western and Christian vibes. So I'm walking around and they keep on having these like post boxes, like you would put your letters in, but it says like box for seishonen, which is like young boys. It's specifically a box that you're supposed to put lewd material in so you can dispose of like nudie magazines so that the children won't see it. So obviously they set this shit up back when like we were in the era of physical media instead of like kids having their internet access to unlimited amounts of porn. But these like boxes are still sitting around, and I wonder if anybody puts ever anything in it ever into like 2026. But like back in the day in Japan, you would go to like the riverside and you'd find like an old dried up like half wet magazine of like titties, and you'd be like, we found it. And it was said on the internet that like it was your duty as a man to leave these magazines around so that kids could find them, so they could learn about, you know, jacking off by looking at these magazines. It was a different time. Enough hair to terrify BB. Mom just left it out on the curb for trash pickup. I don't want to see pubic hair, guys. Too much goddamn pubic hair. No 80s Japanese porn. They called it hair nudo for a reason. If God exists, why does he force hair to grow out of my asshole area? People in this chat have said, no, your asshole hair is necessary. It prevents the bugs from crawling inside your asshole at night. I'm like, that's definitely not a real thing. Whether it's for, like, intelligent design or evolutionary purposes, there is no explanation of why I need to have hair around my asshole, guys. It is a net negative. It's just a way to get, like, poop stuck to my asshole hair when I'm trying to, you know, clean myself up. What if you're a gross little freak who wants the bugs to get your booty hole? I mean, I guess you could always just remove your asshole hair so that the bugs have easier access. There's always that. Honestly, that seems like some sort of Ninja Scroll villain special ability. There's like that guy in Ninja Scroll who had like a beehive attached to his back. It was like actually grown into his back and he could control the bees and stuff to some degree. But instead of having a beehive on my back, I would just have like a centipedes, thousands of centipedes growing in my rectum, and then they would crawl out of my asshole to attack people. Very powerful. You can't stop me. Unfortunately, the bee guy in Ninja Scroll, when he falls into the water, like, the bees, like, panic and they start attacking his inside because they can't swim out into the water or something. So I don't think he had full control over the bees. He just kind of died that way. That's just a Junji Ito short story. The Junji Ito short story version of that, he wouldn't, like, use the centipedes crawling in his asshole as his superpower. He'd instead be like... It'd probably be told from the perspective of, like, a local high schooler who is suspicious that his girlfriend might have, like, centipedes inside her vagina or something like that. And he's like, no, it's just, I must be hallucinating things. Surely that wasn't a gigantic centipede crawling back into her vagina. And, like, the story would climax with, like, her being like, go on, Takeshi, stick it in. And he'd be like, yeah, I must have just been hallucinating. There's no way there's a centipede in her vagina. And then he starts having normal sex. And he forgets about the whole concept. And he was like, I was just being foolish. And then he starts thinking that he's hitting her cervix. But in fact, it's like a giant centipede egg, and then the centipede egg cracks out while he's having sex with her, and like a million centipede babies start crawling out of both her vagina but also her asshole and then her eyeballs or something like that. That would probably be the Junji Ito story. And he'd be like, I've made a horrible mistake. Or maybe he'd just like wake up and be like, it was all a bad dream, and then like a centipede would start crawling out of his penis hole or something. I'm not as good as writing spooky twist as Junji Ito is. Have you ever considered drawing horror? Not really. Only if it's big titty ghost lady in white dress haunting my penis. Cut this to 10 years later when he's an adult telling this to his fiancée, and it turns out she has centipedes in her vagina. It would have to be something slightly different. Maybe millipedes in her asshole instead. He could be like, and I learned my lesson, that's why I only have anal sex. But then he is in for a horrible surprise when he learns that the anal sex is not safe either. None of the holes are safe after all. They're all infested with insects. Truly the most terrifying of all. I'm intrigued by the idea of you doing a horror short. I'm too ironic. I can't do anything too seriously. The urge for me to do silly shit in the horror situation would be too strong. I'd have to just like do some silly shit. The super high-tech toilet was too warm. There was blood. It wasn't from his hemorrhoids. Spooky. Is there a female using my high-tech toilet and she's having her period? How horrifying. Women are the most spooky things of all. They're just bleeding out of their holes once per month. And they tell you it's perfectly normal, but I know they're lying. Remember when I didn't know about, like, the sticky substance that comes out of women's vaginas when they're ovulating? And, like, the females were informing about this during this stream. And I was like, what the fuck? I didn't know about this. I forgot what the terminology was for it. But I recently learned that the Japanese word for it is orimono, which means, like, things that are coming down. The most terrifying thing, a woman on her period. My mother kept on suggesting that I use tampons to absorb the blood coming out of my ass, and I was like, Mom, all that does is make it so I don't stain the things I'm sitting on. It's not like a fundamental solution to the problem. I'm not supposed to be bleeding out of my ass like a woman who's bleeding on her period. We're supposed to stop this from happening. Your solution of me wearing tampons in my asshole isn't actually solving the problem at all. I know you're trying to apply the information that you've learned as a female to my male asshole physiology, but I could give you some horrifying medical facts if you'd like. No, I think I'll just maintain my knowledge of normal, non-horrifying things like, I don't know, tapeworms and stuff, you know. Not horrible shit that women's bodies do. Basically, any knowledge of female physiology is like an episode from Silent Hill. Their flesh is doing all sorts of weird stuff all the time. Put a diva cup in your ass. Having your mom suggest tampon sounds emasculating. My mother has never ever promoted my masculinity at any point in my life, so I'm kind of used to it. I don't think at any point my mother was like, you have to be a man, so you should do that thing. So, yeah, it's pretty normal for her to be like, here, wear a tampon, that will solve your problem. Can you tell us a funny mom story before you end the stream in 40 seconds? Right before when I went to Japan, I learned my mother, while driving on the highway, I learned that my mother did not know what the tachometer was. They take the tachometer, being tachometer or tachometer, I guess it's tachometer is how you pronounce it, being the meter on your car that shows the RPMs of your engine and when you have to shift to another gear. My mother is a person who has driven stick shifts her entire life, to the point that when she was buying a new car recently, she had to search really hard to find a stick shift because she refused to drive anything besides stick shifts, and she felt like she wouldn't be able to drive an automatic. And then she was having, because it was a new car and she wasn't driving it on the highway very often, she was having difficulty getting into the right gear for the fucking highway. And I noticed she was still in the fourth when she should be on the fifth or sixth on the highway. I was like, God damn, Mom, don't you look at the RPMs? And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, holy shit. And I started to panic because like the engine was in the red zone. I was like freaking out, like, God damn it, Mom, you have to shift in the fifth. Now you're in the second. Ah! And she was like, why are you screaming? I'm like, oh my God, you're gonna burn up the engine. And it was then that I learned that adults don't actually know what they're doing. All the information you have as a children of like your parents know what they're doing and they're in control is actually a lie. They have no fucking idea what they're doing. They can go like 40 or 50 years driving a stick shift and not know like the concept of engine and RPMs and just do it based on their feeling of how the car feels. And when you tell them like, oh my God, Mom, you have to learn what the tachometer is, you're driving a manual, they'll just be like, no, I know how the car operates just on how it feels. And I'm like, oh my God. It was at that moment that I promised to myself I wouldn't be like that, and I would actually look shit up on the internet. That's like the most extreme version of basically what she does every day to me, in which she asks me like whether I know something, and I'd be like, Mom, why don't you just ask Google? Google knows way more than I do. You're asking about like basic information about the world. You literally you're sitting in front of your computer. Instead of asking your son, you could just look it up. I promised myself that I would be intellectually curious and go onto Wikipedia and check out the concept of basic things like, you know, my engine RPMs when driving a car. I learned by my late teens that my medical doctor dad can be an absolute moron on my most basic everyday things. The fact that I was able to get to 39 before I was completely disillusioned with my mother's, basic knowledge of shit in the world shows that she's pretty far ahead on like being on top of shit compared to other parents. That it took this long for me to like truly realize how clueless she is on like some of the most basic shit. I do think that there is like a weird kind of lack of curiosity. I don't know if it's in old people in general or if it's like specifically the boomer generation. I kind of have a sneaky suspicion that it's more of a boomer generation thing because they've had like everything built around them their entire life, so they haven't ever had to like adjust shit. But it might just be an old person thing. Actually, I want this to be... It's a boomer thing. My grandma educated herself on how to do shit on the computer. Yeah, I do think it's a boomer thing. Like, they've had society capitulate to their needs for so long that when they're no longer like the center of how society works, like they expect other people to like teach them how to do shit. It feels like very generation specific. All old people reach a point where they stop caring about keeping up, but with boomers it's twofold because even in their prime they never had to think about anything deeply. Yeah, like there's a difference between like not caring about shit and not wanting to keep up and just like, but instead being like boomers have like the attitude of like society should do stuff for me or society should teach me how to do it or like society should just answer my question. You'd think they love ChatGPT or something that would talk to them and, you know, tell them what to do. Whereas other older generations, I feel, were just like, oh, I'm too old to understand. I'm sorry that I can't be knowledgeable about this. It's like, no, it's okay, Grandma. You don't have to understand how to use ChatGPT. Whereas boomers are like, why won't this work? My parents just encouraged my sister and me to learn tech stuff because they were not interested at all in learning themselves. Boomers, like the average boomer, has trained their children to be their tech support. I think everybody that has boomer era parents have had that experience of like, the boomer's like, that's your job now, son. I'm not going to learn how to use these basic PC functions because that's why you exist. I brought you into this world specifically to figure out how to use Windows 7, okay? This is your reason for existing. My dad is very much in the belief that other people should do shit for him. He hates ChatGPT, though. Yeah, I think it's the opposite with, like, AI. I feel like boomers actually feel that a real-life person should be servicing them. The fact that, like, a machine could do it instead is insulting. A living person must waste their time on the boomer's needs, or else they feel insulted. I got to a point recently with my parents where they asked, can you help get this thing working for me? And it was just downloading an app off the App Store and setting up an account. Yeah. Half of the quote-unquote technical support that your boomer parents are asking for are shit that is immediately written on the first page of the user manual. Also take the tech away from boomers. My friend's dad is a MAGA influencer on Twitter. So now that I'm in Japan, like, I get to see the boomer economy in full force because it's an even more of an aging society than America. And when I was looking for a good PC location to get my computer cleaned, I was shopping around and I noticed that there were like two price ranges. There was the price range which was like completely reasonable. Like, I got my laptop taken apart, cleaned, and the thermal paste reattached for like 4,000 yen, which is like just fine in terms of pricing wise, I would say. But like all the other locations that I was looking at, like a good percentage of them would charge more than 10,000 yen. Like 10,000, 12,000 yen, like more than triple the price. Because the people that they're using as customers are Japanese boomers who don't know shit about computers. But the funniest thing I saw was like I was looking at these the websites of these computer technicians in the local area, and one of them was like, do you have any questions about Windows 11? We will install Windows 11 on your computer. And this was like 10,000 yen, 12,000 yen. So like $100 to have fucking Windows 11, essentially malware, to be installed on your fucking computer. You're paying for Windows 11 something that you can get free if you already have Windows 10 to be fucking installed. This isn't the price of Windows 11. They were charging people for the service of having Windows 11 fucking installed on their computer. You're taking your fucking computer into this quote-unquote computer technician, and they're, you know, clicking the Windows 11 update button in the menu, and then that's it. You're giving them $100 for that. And now you can enjoy the amazing features of Windows 11, like endless bugs. I feel like a warden for all my parents' emails and passwords. At least my mother is like self-reliant to the point that she has like a piece of paper with all like her passwords written down on it in code. Like the piece of paper has shit written down like my birthday plus the year in which I went to this country plus the town in which I did that thing. So at least she's analog enough to be like self-reliant on her password management. That being said, I don't really trust the password managers myself, so I just have shit written down in code myself, actually. I just have it in a text file. Of course, if you have Windows 11 taking screenshots of everything you type into your computer at all times, at any point, a hacker can just, like, look up what you were typing in, look at the screenshot, and boom, they've got all your passwords. Feels good, man. If it's not complex, you can still brute force it. Like, 95% of the people who get their password stolen, probably their password is just like 12345 or some shit like that. I should just make all my passwords like hentai related. My default password will be massive futa cock and balls with thick pearly pre-cum dripping 535. No one will guess that. My password is all caps Leona Gudo stomach inflation insect rape 531. Birth date is probably the most common. No one will ever know my birth date, even though it's listed on my Facebook profile. The most devious of all passwords. Inflict psychic damage on the hackers. Insect birth. I mean, surely they don't have text censorship on your password choices, right? I can still use my standard password, Loli Shota Cum Dump 550. You need the upper lower numbers, special characters, and 10 plus characters long to be difficult brute force. Yeah, so that's why you should always include for your hentai passwords the age of the characters. Make sure you include information like 10-year-old equals too old pedo bear. Yeah, this will be my new, yeah, I'll just make my new profile Pedo Bear 1986, and my password will be 12-year-old equals hag too old. There we go. Nobody will ever guess it. You'd be fine to drop N-bombs in your password as well. Average Alex Jones. What would Alex Jones' password be? A. Jane's Truth. Sandy Hook equals lie. How about that? Liberals, gay frogs. I have not thought about Pedo Bear over 10 years. Pedo Bear lives on in our hearts. He will always be there. As long as the lowlies are still running free. Never forget Pedo Bear. Remember when Pedo Bear was mistakenly included in one of the Olympic mascots? I think it was the Sochi Olympics. Pedo Bear in Olympic mascot compilation. There we go. Polish newspaper. It's perfect. I remember. Oh, it's Vancouver 2010. He's perfect, guys. He looks so happy, too. It's funny because on the Japanese internet, he's not a pedo at all. He's just called Kuma, and he isn't into pedophilia. He's only into pedophilia on the Western internet. It would have been brilliant if he passed out condoms to the athletes. Pedo Bear doesn't have to worry about condoms. The women he are interested in have zero possibility of them getting pregnant. Why is it that Olympic athletes are so intent on having sex when they get to the Olympics? I would not be fucking even if I was in the Olympics. He'd be happier if the gymnastics team was just a little bit younger. They're all lying about their age, but they're still too old. Gymnastics does end up having like these really weird body types though, because they have like they need to have so much musculature to do all the tumbling shit they do, right? They're like extremely like tightly packed balls of muscle. They fuck to get out that stress. You see a veritable produce aisle of peak physical performance and body form, some with faces you can look at for 3 to 5 seconds. Just have them wear their, like, luge helmets while having sex. Hot? I know, right? Paperback should just be mandatory. It's like, babe, I think you're beautiful, but on the inside. Which is why I brought this. I want to wear the gritty mascot head. What would be the sexiest sports team mascot to wear while you're having sex, guys? What if a guy was like, I know this is gonna sound weird, but I have a vor fetish and I have the inflatable raptor costume. And I want to have sex with you, well... Mascot eating videos, guys. Oh no! Oh my god! Oh! He's coming for me! Who's he going for? Oh no, not the prettiest one! Oh no! Get away from me! Yeah! Legitimate fetish porn right here, boys. Oh! 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 What are they doing inside? You know there's people who are actually like, that's hot. What the fuck, LMAO? It's a comic gimmick now that they have these inflatable mascots. Oh shit, here's another one. They're fighting now. I've seen it done with the Toronto Raptor mascot as well. Oh, now she's coming back out. Cheerleader gets attacked. This is the one I was thinking about the most. This one. The inflatable raptor is amazing. Look at her go. It would probably be fun to be someone inside one of these mascots if you can ignore the part in which people beat the shit out of you all the time. You have to be insanely athletic, though, because you have to do all these kinds of weird dance moves and stuff. The wolf magnet, though, so often known as the scariest mascot of all time is this one. He's still remembered among NBA circles as fucking horrifying. They had to tone him down to the other version on the right because he was too scary. Well, this is the original version. It was something about out of your nightmares, Pierre the Pelican. Just coming for you in these darkened hallways. But look at his beautiful, shiny black eyes. The baby was worse. The baby is like all-time horror fuel. It turns out when you get the like the anime clean black eyes, deep black eyes with large pupils look wrong. It looks terrifying. He has this huge, like, blood-soaked, menacing beak. How'd it go through? And then they had to, like, tone down the features a little bit. It's very strange. This and the baby, of course. I don't know. The baby, I think they knew that it was creepy lurking in the first place. But the pelican, I feel like there was a lot of people in the committee when designing it that were like, no, this is fine. New Orleans is a city run by corrupt white men with no taste. It also has, it's also a NBA team being run by the people who own the Saints. And they've been bad for the longest time as well. So it sort of goes together. They had the choice of so many decent team names, and they chose the Pelicans. The Pelicans are fine. I support having a mascot that is something that lives in your city. You have like this weird situation where the team moves locations. So, what was originally the Vancouver Grizzlies then becomes like the Memphis Grizzlies, and it makes no fucking sense, or the Utah Jazz. Yes, if there's one thing we think about when we think Salt Lake City, it's definitely their vibrant jazz culture, right, guys? You should be forced to change your name when you move the team. Especially if it's like a local name. Like the fucking Lakers, right? Yeah, if there's one thing we think about LA, it's the fucking lakes. It only makes sense because LA and lake kind of sound similar. It's fucking Minnesota, god damn it. Salt Lake City Jizz. They should just be called the Salt Lake City Latter-day Saints or whatever. Salt Lake City Pioneers. How about the Salt Lake City Polygamists? That rolls off the tongue. The Polygs. The Utah Multi-Wifers. that works for some players' lifestyles too. Wilt Chamberlain claimed to have had sex with 3,000 women, but I've read theories that he was actually gay and that was just his beard, and I kind of believe it. Nobody actually has sex with like 3,000 different women, even if they're a NBA player in the 70s or whatever. Apparently, if you're an NBA player, you have like different hoes in different cities because you have to fly around. So you just like call them up when you get into the city so they can come and have sex with you. The women, on the other hand, their goal is, of course, to get pregnant so that they can force the NBA player to pay a huge portion of their salaries for the next 18 years in child support. So if you're an NBA player, you sure as fuck better be using a condom and not believe her when she says she's on birth control. Which sounds like a middle schooler who swears he got 100 handjobs from girls. They just don't get to this school. Yeah, that's what I feel. Magic Johnson, on the other hand, is like, no, I love my wife, but I also got AIDS somehow. Shocking how that HIV thing worked out. I would never have sex with random hoes. I honestly don't think LeBron has been doing much fucking around. Just based on his general behavior. I think LeBron is a pretty boring, calculating human being who spends way too much time thinking about his public image. He's infamous for snow bunny hunting. Oh, is he? I always assume the worst about LeBron and his general personality, so... And by the worst in this case, I mean he's like doing boring poser shit. But I guess that can go both ways. He can be posing to be like a wholesome character, and then he's going snow bunny hunting. How will this affect LeBron's legacy? On the same wavelength as Halliburton? Tyrese Halliburton girlfriend. She looks like she works for Fox News, honestly. She has that, like, classic trademark Fox News hairstyle. She looks like she could be part of, like, the Trump administration cabinet. Like, this is your labor secretary right here. And her primary job would be, like, telling reporters that the president has everything planned out perfectly fine, but he can't give you any answers at the moment. perfect for Indiana. I mean, what else would you have access to if you were in Indiana? What percentage of the snow bunnies are like actual blondes, do you think? It can't be that high, right? Like a little known secret among female tech, this one weird trick is you just dye your hair blonde and you start pretending that you're blonde and then you get like way more dick. Please tell me you know what snow bunnies actually refer to. I only know snow bunnies in the context of interracial porn. Is there anything to know about besides the two things are interracial porn and skiing? What else is there? Actual rabbits? People underestimate the blinding hair of natural blondes and their lack of brows. Yeah. In fact, you even see this in anime. Like, a lot of times, anime characters who have blonde hair will have, like, darker eyebrows. They'll be drawn with darker eyebrows because if the eyebrows are, like, too light, you can't really tell what's going on with their expression, and it kind of actually looks weird. So, yeah, it's actually weird if you're like a true natural blonde and like you have a blonde beard or blonde eyebrows. Snow bunny mind control. Unlike average Japanese high school girls in hentai, in which the ugly bastard has to present them with a magical cell phone, the snow bunny in Western drawn porn is immediately mind controlled when a local black man shows her his gigantic BBC cock, and she is immediately forced to start sucking on it. She can't help herself. I don't know who jacks off to blacked interracial porn and stuff, especially the drawn kind. The females are usually drawn in this like really grotesque style with like, it has a lot of overlap with like the bimbofication fetish, I think. It ain't for me. I'm only interested in pure Japanese Yamato Nadeshiko maidens. Natural blonde and blue-eyed people just kind of give off the same featureless energy as albinos. They also have, like, don't you have problems in which if you're, like, too blue-eyed, you have difficulty seeing in the sun? Like, you can easily hurt your eyeballs and stuff? That's what I heard. Like the super blue-eyed types. It applies to albinos. I know because Max Scherzer... No, it wasn't Max Scherzer. It was some other guy. Max Scherzer has like two different colored eyes. There was like some blonde pitcher who had had to like wear contacts or some shit because being on the baseball field and it's too bright and stuff for blonde people or some shit. Blue eyes have like there's a reason why they're recessive genes, because they're inferior to the Chad Japanese Jomon genetics. It is interesting how, like, Republican females have just sort of, they've codified the concept of whiteness in a very specific way in which they all have to, like, dye their hair blonde and then get those really specific curls that all the Fox News anchors have. Like, I know half of it is just, it's like just the fashion of the time, but another half is like you have to have that. It's kind of like if you're a woman and you have short hair, you automatically have to be prepared to be mistaken as a lesbian. That just, it goes with the territory. It's kind of the same way for like the Fox News anchors and shit. They have to have that specific hairstyle, or else their male cohorts won't know they're part of the tribe. The Republican woman look is based on 2000 porn actresses. Yeah, but the porn actresses of that time period, they didn't have that level of curls, I think. Like, especially like the inward-outward curls, you know? Like the one, like it goes like this, and then they have like it like this, right? They didn't have those in the porn actresses at the time, I think. Maybe there was a little bit. I thought it was a little bit more free-flowing. There's this kind of curl motion that they want to put in. Mormon curls. Their work is a bit sweaty. I know, right? Like, even if you got that level of your hair done, the moment you started fucking on camera, it's like gonna get all disheveled. I mean, that's kind of part of the point. Jenna Jameson would do that. I didn't watch much of Jenna Jameson. She was a little too mainstream for me, I guess. The porn star that was like super popular at the time, when I was still looking at actual human females on the internet to jack off, was Tara Patrick. I remember I rented an adult video of her, and I was watching like the interviews of the porn, and then like Tara Patrick was like, yeah, I don't actually masturbate, I just have sex. And like one of her co-stars was looking at her like she was a fucking psycho. They're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was thinking, well, I guess if you're a porn star, it's kind of your job, so... That's why they buy extensions. When I was a lifeguard at the YMCA, one day there was like a black girl, I think she was like in her teens or something, but she started swimming in the pool, and I don't know what kind of glue or whatever they fucking used to attach extensions, but all the hair she had attached to her head the extensions started coming off, and she started leaving these long tendrils of like fake ass hair in the pool that we had to clean up. And she didn't stop swimming even when her hair started coming off, and we were like, what the fuck? What the fuck is this shit? I don't know how much that shit cost her, but it was just like, what the fuck? Yeah, it was extremely gross. Some things, man, I don't know. On the other hand, people regularly shit in the YMCA pool as well, so how much worse can that be? Probably everyone's peeing as well, but we just don't acknowledge it. Just like, nothing we can do. You can't tell if they're peeing in the pool, so there actually are ways to tell. Like you can have, like, you know how you have to put chlorine into the pool to like have it disinfected. So instead of just like normal chlorine, there's like brands of the pool disinfectant where they have like an agent in it that will sense the pH content of the pee or whatever. So when like a kid pisses in the pool, like all the water around him will start to change color. But yeah, basically all that does is shame children. I don't know if it actually stops them from pissing in the pool. I feel they're still just gonna piss in the pool anyways. Just another day at the Young Men's Christian Association. Apparently the locker rooms, the family locker rooms of the pool's changing area, where you could like close the door and lock it because you were supposed to go in with like your family. Apparently they were being listed on Craigslist as like a gay hookup spot. Because of course they were. You can't have any kind of like public area in which you can lock the door and go into for like 10 or 15 minutes at a time that won't be used for sex, unfortunately. People just be like, oh, is that a love hotel now? Time for gay sex hookups. It's basically impossible to tell people they can't have sex in public spaces as soon as you provide them a place where they can lock the door or even close the door. Cruising and getting a workout, wow. Yet despite this, I had never walked into a local Japanese train station and seen a magical girl heroine tied up and attached to the urinal, or I guess not the urinal, it would be the in one of the stalls with all of her holes stuffed with dildos and lots of marker writing on her saying free use and stuff like that. I guess that only happens in hentai and not in real life. Shocking. You were in the wrong station. You have to be on the wrong side of the train tracks to find that. If we're being realistic, there's no way if I saw like a tied up superheroine or something in the train station public urinal sex bondage situation, I would ever actually think of sticking my dick in that. I mean, I barely even want to take a poop outside of my own apartment. I would never be comfortable. I can't be comfortable in public spaces, guys. Baby would go ooh and walk away. I don't like shitting in public urinals, so I definitely wouldn't want to have sex in a public urinal either. And in all of those hentai situations, there's always like a long list of ugly bastard salarymen being like, it's my turn next, so yeah. I'd be like, yeah, I have to go to a different stall, guys. In fact, the way men's physiology works is that we can't even get erections if we are like too tense. The way the blood flow works is that you have to relax for the blood to flow into your dick. So if you're like all tense, you get like performance anxiety and you can't get an erection. This is why it's hard to be a porn star. You have to be relaxed in front of cameras and shit. I basically only get hard when I'm half asleep. That's your brain thinking sexy thoughts in your subconscious. And then your body is like relaxed enough for the blood to flow into your cock. That's what karaoke rooms are for. Put your skirt back on, hussy. Bon Jovi is up. Don't all karaoke rooms have, like, cameras in them nowadays? I assume. I don't know. Why go into these separate rooms when you could just, have sex on the train? Every time I watch Chikan hentai, they're having sex in public all the time and nobody stops them. In fact, nobody notices the magical power of the Chikan molester. They're just like, you know, they have their dick out and it's always like, oh, it's too crowded. No way I could see that guy's cock. Baby's favorite? Yeah, I basically noticed that all the porn that I like consuming just involves porn in which the women aren't allowed to make noises. Because as soon as they start making the oh, ooh, oh, it's so big, or kya, yeah, all those noises, I'm like, damn, that's some bad acting, and it takes me out immediately. So in stuff like Chikan, they're forced to be quiet, and I can just listen to like the train ASMR without having to listen to annoying female sounds. You just like trains honest. It sounds so nice. It's just like ka-dunk, 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 ka-dunk. And then there's some other sex noises going on, but you know, the train noise is like the primary soundtrack. Meanwhile, if you try and watch any Western porn, within like 5 seconds, the woman's like, oh, making all sorts of stupid noises. Like, I don't know how anybody can jack off to that. Fuck me harder, daddy. Schlup, schlup. You guys didn't see this because this was just like DMs between me and Hystrixia, but I found all the photos of the outside camera of the JAV porn shoots. And average JAV porn shoot is like if the female is like this, then the guy has to be like... It has to be like this. And then we have the guy with the camera being like this. So that you get the POV shot. And then here we have like a second guy whose entire job is to hold the water cup right here. And it's making this like splish noises. The professional water cup holder. The hardest job in the industry. The guy who has to like be here and hold the water cup. And then sometimes it's also like a guy is has the camera and he's like down here. They almost always have a water cup to make it sound to make the water sound effects. Why don't they strap a camera on the dude's neck? So, more amateur porn, they do that. Like, basically, people have GoPros nowadays and stuff. But if you want your high-definition, expensive Sony 4K camera action, then you need to have the experience of the professional cameraman who's like, yeah, let me get in there. Let's go. And this guy has to be like, oh, I have to bend all the way backward. It's a hard life, but someone's got to do it. I don't like this hair. I hated the angles and the wetness so much. Literally never combed a professional porn in my life. But they work so hard. You can't deny them. You try so hard doing all these amazing angles and making all these weird wet noises. And people are like, I hate it. It's too fake. No. As someone who is always jacking off to two-dimensional content, I can't say I'm supporting the porn industry. I owned a lot of on-sale DMM Fanza porn, but when I realized they blocked it outside of the country, outside of Japan at some point, I was just like, I'm never buying from this place again, so... Ah! Alright, it's 11. Alright, I'm going to end the stream here. My god, I'm drawing so slow, but at least it's getting done. It's so hard for me to draw while I talk. See you around, boys. Good night. Have a nice night, boys. Good night.